creating something out of nothing. A moment passed, and there were still 9 stone steps, not one more, not one less. Nonetheless, no one made a single comment. This was because Moon Hao opened his hand, and the transparent medicinal pill therein floated up to hover in front of him. Then it blossomed with 9 glowing color lights. The lights emanated out from the pill, slowly forming into the shape of a 9 treasures pearl curtain plant. Anzai's voice broke the silence. "This is creating something out of nothing." He was panting as he once again rose to his feet. Earlier he had guessed that this might happen, but to see it with his own eyes sent his mind reeling, and it shook his heart. Normally he would never have made such an outburst. He was an alchemist, and stubborn pursuit was part of the Tao of alchemy. He was the type of eccentric who would never reveal his emotions regardless of whether he was happy or furious, but in this regard his sentiments ruled him. The great Tao of alchemy, returning the simplicity of nature, creating something out of nothing. As Anzau's voice echoed out, everyone watched the screen as Moon Hao lifted his foot onto the first step. He walked slowly up the 9 steps, then raised his foot out into the emptiness. As it descended, a 10th step appeared. He walked forward. As he did, more steps appeared beneath his feet. The limitation of number had already been exceeded. This was the realm far past of Yi Fama. Most people didn't even understand such a realm. However, the 8 violent furnace lords did. After Anzai and Lin Heilong finished speaking, silence reigned. The master alchemists sat mutely in their places. The furnace lords were breathing heavily. All the people who had been laughing at him earlier now felt their minds spinning, as if they had been slapped in the face by an enormous invisible palm. The slap had both cleared their minds and sent them reeling at the same time. After the space of a few breaths, an incredible hubbub broke out. Creating something out of nothing? Feng Miu was able to take something that didn't really exist and use it to make something real? What level of skill in Tao alchemy does that represent? Is Yi Fan Mu the strongest, or is this Feng Miu even better? The people from the visiting sects weren't able to discern what was going on. The only thing that was abundantly clear was the shock they saw on the faces of the Violet Furnace Lords. Of their number, only Yi Yashin had a gloomy look on his face. He frowned as he looked at Moon Hao's screen, a breathtaking medicinal pill. As of now, they had forgotten Chu Yu Yan and Yi Fan Mu. All eyes were fixed like glue onto Moon Hao. He was the focus of attention of all the people here. Betty was panting, and Yi eyes shone with a strange light as she looked at Moon Hao. Li Shiki's expression was one of fascination. She herself had never imagined that alchemist Feng Miu would concoct a pill such as this. Qin Fan had never been interested in alchemy, but he gaped in astonishment, and admiration grew within his heart for Feng Miu. Patriarch Violet Sleeve from the Black Sleeve laughed. Starting today, the name of alchemist Feng Miu will be known to everyone within the Southern Domain. Sub-patriarchs from other clans laughed and said similar things. When their words entered Yi Yashin's ears, his face grew unsightly, and unconsciously he glanced towards his master, Pill Demon. Pill Demon's face was expressionless, which caused Yi Yashin to sigh with relief. Turning his head to look at the other Violet Furnace Lords, he said, "Unless Master makes a specific choice, then everyone has a chance. Feng Miu may have some unique skills in pill concocting, but the general trend is favoring Yi Fama to become the next Violet Furnace Lord." He gave meaningful looks to those among the Violet Furnace Lords with whom he was close. He felt a bit more calm after that, and when he looked back at Moon Hao's screen, his expression was the same as ever. His heart, however, was filled with rancor and cold laughter. Moon Hao had no way to know what was happening in the outside world. However, from the moment he had begun to concoct the pill, he had decided to make a big scene. At that moment, he was walking up the mountain path. Ahead of him was nothingness, but every step he took, more stone steps would appear to support him. Time passed. The buzz of conversation still filled the outside world when Moon Hayo stepped onto the final stone step of the third region. He wasn't really sure how many total steps he had traversed. If he thought about it, then perhaps it was more than 10,000. Moon Hayo didn't actually care about a specific number. It wasn't important. Who was it? Thought Shu Yuyan, her breathing heavy. She still wasn't sure who had caused the shocking scene just now. Whoever it was, that person was on a different level. Unless they were at the peak mountain, it would be very difficult to see anything. At the moment, the first person that came to mind again, Yi Fema, but then she hesitated. Suddenly, she wasn't so sure. Something inside of her telling her that it probably wasn't Yi Fema. And yet, from her perspective, other than Yi Fema, none of the other candidates, including herself, could possibly have done something like this. As she thought, determination filled her eyes. She turned and continued upward. The most conflicted of all was none other than Yi Fema. He stood mutely on the stone steps, thinking for a long time. Who was it? What pill did they concoct? I concocted one medicinal pill, the pinnacle. I can't believe that someone else's decision regarding the Tao of alchemy could surpass my own. In the third region, I definitely produced the most steps with the least amount of medicinal pills. I only concocted one. This person could not have possibly outdone me. Yi Fama's pride caused him in his heart, but it quickly vanished. I must be in first place. His eyes glittering, he raced forward, hurrying towards the end of the third region, in preparation to participate in this trial by fire. Violet, Furnace Lord, Yushana, had actually violated sect protocol by secretly telling him in detail about his own experience in the promotion trial by fire. For example, Yi Fema knew that at the end of the third region, it was possible to see who had passed through the region, what method they had used to do so, and what position they were granted by the mortal land. His eyes were filled with stubbornness. Yi Fema hurried on, panting. In addition to Chu Yuan and Yi Fema, there was also the old man and the middle-aged man. They were also racing forward. Time passed. The first person to reach the end of the third region was Chu Yuan. She leapt across the gap created by the few missing steps. Time passed. The first person to reach the end of the third region was Chu Yuyan. She leapt across the gap created by the last few missing steps. Then a tremor ran through her body. She had just seen the boulder marking the beginning of the fourth region. The first thing entered her vision was not the requirements for concocting pills, but rather the ranking from the previous region, which floated in the air front of the boulder. In third place was her own name, Chu Yuyan. Next to it was written the numbers 9,999. She gasped, then looked towards second place. It was Yi Faima's name, and the number was 10,000. 10,000. He really does deserve to be called Grandmaster Pill Cauldron. 10,000 steps marks perfection in the third region. However, how could he possibly only have been in second place? She stared at the name for a moment, and her heart began to pound. Slowly her gaze moved up until she saw the listening for first place. Instantly a rolling sound filled her head, and her eyes shone with disbelief. How could it be him? She was suddenly out of sorts. The boulder was spewing out massive amounts of violet kai, but she didn't notice. All she could do was stare at the rankings. Bang Mu, muttered Yi Fama, his body trembling slightly. His eyes filled with disbelief and even more so shame. If it had been Chu Yuyan who beat him, he could have accepted it, but instead it was someone he completely looked down upon. Furthermore, that person had surpassed him in the third region. As far as he was concerned, this was a complete humiliation. Actually, from the moment Bang Mu had been raised to Furnace Lord, he had been aroused the dislike of other Furnace Lords. That was especially true for Yi Fama. He held nothing but contempt for the manner in which Bang Mu had received his promotion. Next, Yi Fama's body trembled and began to fill with rage. This was because he had just seen the numbers written after Bang Mu's name. 10 stone steps. I created a perfect set of 10,000 stone steps. How could a trifling 10 stone steps even compare? Just what pill did Bang Mu concoct? Yi Fama wouldn't go as far as to question the fairness of the trial by fire, but inside he just couldn't accept it. But now he had already put the pieces together, and realized who the pilotulation had come from. Violet Kai poured out of the boulder. But Yi Faima felt a sense of irony. His eyes filled with a cold light. Ming Hao stood in front of the fourth region boulder, looking at the ringgits, his right hand lifted up, causing the image to scatter. Massive amounts of violet Kai poured out, dense to the extreme. Those watching in the outside region could easily see the boundless extent of the violet Kai, and how much exceeded Chu Yuan's and Yi Faima. Several hours passed, during which time this point was even further impressed upon all onlookers. Moon Hao's black pill furnace absorbed the violet Kai, and as it did, its color slowly changed. Now it was no longer pitch black, but tinged with violet. At first glance, it would be hard to tell whether it was black or violet. However, the pill furnace was now struggling about half as much as it before, and no longer as fiercely. About an hour later, the violet Kai disappeared. Text gradually appeared on the boulder, revealing the requirements for the final region. Become an apprentice. Seeing these words caused Moon Hao's vision to suddenly burst into twist. The mountain in the front of him was no longer a mountain. The sky above him was no longer the same sky. Creating something out of nothing. A moment passed, and there were still 9 stone steps. Not one more, not one less. Nonetheless, no one made a single comment. This was because Moon Hao opened his hand, and the transparent medicinal pill therein floated up to hover in front of him. Then it blossomed with 9 glowing color lights.